Talk to me about the work from home debate, because I know you've just come back from the States. Huge feature over there. Vote winner, I think, for President Trump. And certainly when he moved so quickly on it post-election, it resonated here in Australia. Interestingly, though, the PM here is trying to take the opposition to task over ending work from home. They're saying, you know, Peter Dutton, you're out of touch. But I look at an example of the Home Affairs Department. This is border protection. And in that department, 70% of people work from home. Now, how can you work for Home Affairs from home?
Yeah, well, look, the facts and figures were even worse, actually, in DC. I mean, just as I was leaving a few months ago, some extraordinary figures came out that 90% of the federal workforce was still working from home. This is in Washington, DC. So you have these huge buildings with basically no one in them. So Donald Trump administration has certainly sought to reverse that. Look, I think in principle, it's a good idea, but basically, lots of people have become used to working from home since the pandemic, and they quite like it. And if they're forced to come back in the office, they will quit. So some people will be lost.
Isn't that part of the problem with our productivity, though, that they are working from home?
Yes. Look, I mean, there's a big intellectual debate, you know, as to whether it's more or less productive. And look, it probably depends on the individual, frankly. Yeah. In some cases, it probably is more productive. I mean, I hesitate to apply blanket rules. I think it probably depends on the particular nature of the department, and certainly I don't think the government should be mandating what happens in the private sector. I think that's up to employees and business to work out for themselves. And there's some other figures from the US just came out. Roughly 1/4 of American workers now are at least partly working from home, which is an extraordinary figure, right? So that's at least 1 day a week. It's not completely working from home. But that's a very large figure. And the other fact that came out of this large survey was that many people would be willing to forego $8,000 a year of their salary to work from home. So how about this? If Peter Dutton says, look, you can work from home, but you're going to take a pay cut. Maybe that's the trade-off.
What about some comments? Because I think the whole work from home debate's a middle class debate. If you've got a laptop sort of job, you can work from anywhere in the world, and I suspect people do. I suspect the Canberra public servants aren't living in Canberra when they're working from home now, but not if you're in the real economy, not if you're in the jobs that drive, retail or transport or those things. This was picked up by Chris Minns, New South Wales Premier. Have a listen.
There's 400,000 public servants in the state. Most of them are on the front lines. They don't have an option to work from home. Those that do, we're trying to get back into the workplace, and there's a couple of reasons for it. Firstly, a sense of shared mission in the public service, and secondly, the vital and absolutely necessary role that older employees play in mentoring young people into the workplace.
Supreme common sense there from Chris Minns, and yet again he's just highlighting where these Labor leaders on the right, and I think Roger Cook's an example, Malinauskas is an example in South Australia, are cementing themselves into government with common sense policies, and the bloke from the left faction in Canberra just doesn't get it.
Yeah, look, I think that's right. I mean, I think there is an argument that managers want to be able to supervise their staff. Obviously, it's much harder to do if they're at home. And like I said earlier, I mean, for some employees, it might suit them to work from home. For others, and probably the most, the majority of them, it does not. So, I think the Minns approach, it's certainly good retail politics. But as for the economics, I think the jury's still out, I would say.
All right, thank you very much, Adam. Enjoy the budget.